Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, and thanks again for tuning in with us this week. I am Laura McNeil, Sterling Master Examiner. I want to welcome all of you to the third session of our Sterling Core Values Leadership Series. Each of our sessions in this series is designed to highlight one of 11 core values in a 7-minute leadership brief, followed by a Q&A session. Core values are the basic elements of how we go about our work. They are the practices we use or should be using every day in everything we do. They set forth a common organizational mindset and they establish an organization's culture. Today's core value is valuing people. It will be presented by Sterling Master Examiner Monique Akanbi, HR Professional and Field Services Director with the Society of Human Resources Management, otherwise known as SHRM. Before I turn it over to Monique for her 7-minute leadership brief, just want to remind everyone to please submit any questions you have through chat, and we will source the questions from there for our Q&A session after Monique's presentation. At this time, I would like to introduce Monique Akanbi.
Thank you so much, Laura, and hello, everyone. I am really excited to be a part of this leadership series and to talk about something that I am passionate about, and that is people. At the heart of an organization is its people. The success of an organization depends on an engaged workforce that benefits from meaningful work, clear organizational direction, opportunities to learn, accountability for performance, and then also a culture of equity and inclusion that capitalizes on the diverse backgrounds of not only of its workforce, but also its customers. As you see, we've talked about the first two core values, which is visionary leadership and creating a customer-focused excellence. And next, we'll talk about valuing people. And it's only fitting that on the spoke of this wheel where valuing people is located, it is in between workforce and also the customer. So creating that focus on both your workforce and your customers assists you in that performance excellence. So as John Keevan shared in his talk about visionary leadership 2 weeks ago, it starts with creating the right culture, an environment where team members and customers thrive and where their needs are met. So also during Debbie Vass's talk on customer-focused excellence last week, she shared that customer-focused excellence starts with defining your service culture through behaviors and actions. So valuing people starts with focusing on your culture, focusing on engagement, and creating those opportunities for development. So we'll talk about culture and those guiding principles or core values that you can set within your organization. I like to share about 2 organizations that I've been a part of that really set core values and guiding principles at the top of their list in terms of valuing its people, meaning its workforce and its customers. FBMC Benefits Management, a few years ago, we determined that we needed to have a set of core values that really focused on the way we would interact, not only internally with ourselves, but also with our customers. And so we went through a process of surveying our team members. I always say people don't criticize what they create. And so these core values were birthed based on the feedback of our workforce. This is how they wanted to make sure that they were interacting with each other, as well as interacting with our customers and our clients. In addition, SHRM, the organization that I'm a part of now, has a set of guiding principles. And through these guiding principles, whether it's bold purpose, excellence and accountability, collaborative openness, smart and curious, and pushing back to move forward, this is how they interact with their customers. This is how we interact with our customers every day, also with each other. And this is how team members are recruited based on these principles. Next, we'll talk about engagement. And according to Gallup, the average level of highly engaged employees in the United States is approximately 36%. But just as we've heard in many of our Sterling trainings, we don't want to be average. And as John Keevan indicated, we don't settle with mediocrity. And so I've been fortunate that in organizations that I've worked in, our workforce's level of engagement was either 70% or higher. And this was evident as highly engaged employees are 480% more committed to helping their company. They're 50% more likely to recommend improvements, and 370% more likely to recommend their company as an employer of choice. And we all know in today's day and age where there is a war on talent and we are living in the great resignation, it is very important to create that focus on people and making sure that we have a highly engaged workforce. And when we talk about engagement, it's important to note the distinction between engagement and also satisfaction, because often the two of those get confused. When we talk about engagement, we talk about individuals within your organization that go above and beyond. It is that discretionary effort that they give to go beyond what is expected of them and beyond their role within the organization. So in addition to culture and engagement, valuing people consists of opportunities to develop. I am a firm believer of treating the whole employee or treating the whole individual. And so assisting your workforce through meaningful career paths and a focus on competency also assists in your organization's achievement and performance excellence. Research has shown that the top 3 motivators of an employee is purpose, autonomy, and mastery. And that's that ability to acquire and master new skills. So in the famous words of J.W. Marriott, and I thought it was only fitting as we gear up into 2022 and have our 30th annual Florida Sterling Conference in Orlando, Florida at the J.W. Marriott. In his words, if you take care of your people, they will take care of your customers. And before I leave you today, I just want to share a few resources that are available to you as you either are on this journey or start this journey of creating a focus and creating a value of your people, whether it is your workforce or your customers. Thank you.
Thank you, Monique. And now we'd like to open it up for Q&A. And I do have one question in queue for you. Okay. Can you provide an example of a change that you or your organization has made personally as it pertains to promoting the core value of valuing people? In particular, looking for an example that really transformed the culture, along with some positive impacts that this change had made.
Absolutely, Laura. I'll go back to at FBMC Benefits Management when we determined that we needed to have a set of core values. And going through that process of gaining our team members' feedback, that assists us in holding each other accountable day to day and how we interact with our customers and also how we interact with each other. And so there was always a focus on our customers, but we wanted to create that value of our people, meaning our workforce. And so the impact of setting those values were more meaningful internally when they were externally, because we were a customer-centric organization. We just wanted to make sure that that same focus that we were having on our customers, we had on our workforce with each other. And so we saw that in an increase in our engagement scores, where we went from over a 3-year period, where we went from about 58% engagement to over 70% of our workforce being engaged.
Wow, that's impressive. Thanks for that, Monique. We have a couple more questions. You say 36% of the workforce is engaged, meaning 36 out of every 100 employees are engaged. Did this change during COVID?
Actually, it increased a little through COVID. So it was in about 2019, so prior to the pandemic, the average engagement was about 33 to 34%. So we're starting to see across the entire country an increase on engagement. And I attribute that to organizations that have really identified being flexible with their workforce and having that focus on people. I always say during the pandemic, it shifts our mindsets and it shifts the way we think. And I think now more than ever, organizations are really understanding the value of valuing people and the impact it has on its workforce.
That's great. Is there any evidence of trends that can link valuing people to the Great Resignation you referenced?
Well, there's not any data now. Currently, it's being developed because each day it changes in our current environment. And so I will say right now, I think organizations that have created that flexibility and that value on people have seen a lower turnover number than those organizations that have not created that focus on valuing people.
Okay. What about suggesting measurement indicators for staff engagement? Is there anything you can recommend in that area?
Absolutely. Some of the resources that I've shared, I'm going to go back to Best Workplaces or Best Companies Group is a great resource in terms of surveying your workforce to have that baseline and being able to measure the level of increasing engagement and valuing people. But also they provide you with action items to identify where those opportunities for improvement may be within your organization and how you can achieve or address those challenges.
Okay. What about recommending the very first step that a leader could take in order to cultivate and develop that culture of embracing, valuing people core value?
I think it starts with vision. At the leadership level, there has to be a commitment and a vision to value people. I think acknowledging that that is a need is the first step and kind of half the battle. And so ensuring that at the leadership level, there is a general and a consensus on creating that culture of focusing on people, that's the very first start.
Okay, thank you. Last question. Do you have any suggestions for how to identify areas that could become friction and pose a challenge for the ability to create that culture of valuing people?
Absolutely. So I always say surveys are great because it gives you quantitative data, but being in human resources and having a passion for people, it is through those individual conversations and connecting with team members and speaking to them to say, how are you doing? What do you like most about your role? What are some challenges? And really listening to what your team members are saying in those areas. You can identify those possible areas of friction, but also it can give you insight on how you can address those.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for your insights, Monique. If I could quickly summarize after listening to your presentation, let's see if I got it right. This is what I would say. Valuing people requires a balanced focus on both customers and employees. It also requires a deep sense of engagement and belonging for all of the stakeholders. It requires the provisioning of developmental opportunities through training or other modes of engaged learning. So engaged learning and training, very pivotal to valuing people. And it is through these efforts that an organization can cultivate a culture based on a foundation of shared principles that leads to valuing people. Is that right?
You said it best, Laura.
Awesome. I took good notes then. Thank you. All right. So thanks again for joining us today. And as a reminder, please check in at floridasterling.com for additional content from today's session. And If you've enjoyed today's session, please feel free to forward the registration link to others. Don't forget to tune in, same time next week. Our Sterling Core Value Leadership Series session will be on delivering value and results. We will be featuring Bob Gehrig, who is our Budget Director of Pasco County, Florida. Thank you all for choosing to spend some time with us today, and make it a great day.